Welcome to InFocus. This is our weekly video that we put together to encourage and enrich and explore some of the themes that we're going to be looking at in the book of Matthew. And so this week our theme is on the significance of the Beatitudes. We all kind of know the Beatitudes of Christ, but why was it so important? Why was it significant? Why did Matthew include that, and why did Jesus share that? Well, last Sunday, as we looked at the chapter, we saw that Matthew concluded that chapter saying that Jesus went throughout all of Galilee, teaching and preaching and healing various kinds of diseases. And so he was out there teaching and preaching, and so now Matthew moves into chapter 5, and he is beginning to share some of the content of Jesus' teaching ministry. And so when he begins to share this, we see that it's very radical in regard to their culture. And he goes back, if you go back to Matthew 28:20, Jesus tells us that we are to teach believers to observe all that he commanded. And so this is very important to Matthew to include this, because this is kind of a summary of some of his teachings and kind of the summary statements. It's the cliff notes in a sense of what Jesus taught. But it was very radical in the context of his day. And why is that? Because the king's values are very different than the values of that culture and our culture today. So he turned the culture upside down. And he basically threw a grenade into the middle of their understanding of what was important. It was like a laser-guided missile that went in to destroy the common expectations and thoughts of the day. And it wasn't what they expected to hear. They were all about this kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, and they saw it as a national kingdom. They saw it as a renewed Jewish state. They were the sons of Abraham, after all, and God promised Abraham that he would multiply their nation, and their people would be like the sand of the seashore. So they had a great expectation as being the Jewish people, or the nation of Israel. They took pride in that. They desired to see a nation that would be strong. They wanted a nation that was powerful, a nation that would be honored in the world again. They looked back to the glory years of King David as he conquered the surrounding nations, and as Solomon, as he expanded the kingdom, and all the kingdoms of the earth came to Israel to pay homage and give tribute. And they looked for that. Now, Rome was that nation in their day, and so they had this natural resistance to Rome. And they were looking for a kingdom and a king that would deliver them from Rome and set them up a new kingdom. Well, instead, Jesus throws a grenade into the middle of all of their cultural expectations. And instead of saying that, we need to have a strong kingdom, a kingdom of power, he says instead, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." That was radical. That was different. What does it mean to be poor in spirit? It means to be broken. It means to be humble. It means that we recognize our need, and when we recognize our spiritual need, our spiritual poverty, then that is the first step toward that kingdom relationship. He says, "Blessed are the mourn," those people that are mourning. "Blessed are the meek," as compared to the powerful. They valued power and authority and position and those kind of relationships. And Jesus said the opposite. "Blessed are the meek." Blessed are those people that keep that power under control. It's restrained. Blessed are those that hunger and thirst for righteousness. And so their values had to change. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the pure in heart. And he goes through all of these things. And he is now contrasting kind of that inner transformation as opposed to external behavior. he's basically saying you can't earn it by the things that you do. Instead, it has to come from the inside out. He is saying that it's not just a set of ethical demands. It's just not a list of do's and don'ts. It has to spring out of our relationship with God. It has to be internal. It has to be something that grows within us, that we demonstrate. It's more than a temporary, emotional, or circumstantial state. You know, we think of happiness, and that relates to the happenings around us, that we are excited because of the good things that are happening. And he's saying here, our blessedness does not relate to the external, because you can be blessed when you're under persecution. And he goes back, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You know, blessed are you when you're persecuted. So he is showing to us that we need a righteousness that's greater than our own. It has to be greater than our own. We can't just somehow muster it up. And because we can't muster it up, we see how broken we are and how we can't measure up. And that helps us to recognize our sin nature and our need for forgiveness and the purpose of Jesus going to the cross to provide that forgiveness for us and his righteousness in exchange. Well, the Beatitudes are the beginning point of all of that discussion as Jesus develops his Sermon on the Mount. And I hope you'll join us on Sunday as we explore a little bit more in depth of what this means for you and for me today. Thanks for watching.